Khamzat Chimaev is overhyped. He's fake hype. Everyone put his potential up to the stars when in fact he probably isn't as good as we think he is. And we saw it in his recent fight against Kamaru Usman. Against Kamaru Usman, this was a Kamaru Usman that was on short notice. Supposedly, according to Jorge Masvidal, was partying until 4 a.m. 11 days prior to his fight and arguably only won one round against him. And based on YouTube, Instagram comments, people are putting his potential to the moon and still think he's some revolutionary prospect, but I really don't think that's the case. So we're going to analyze first how he got to where he is. Martin, what do you think made him hyped as he is now?
Well, he was fighting low-level competition, and the main thing was he was destroying them. You know, if fighters go on a win streak, you know, Leon Edwards went on a crazy win streak, for example. He wasn't demolishing the people he was fighting. Chimaev was demolishing the people he was fighting. But one thing we never saw with Chimaev was how is his striking. And against Gilbert Burns, he went 3 rounds, 3 hard rounds. His striking looked pretty good. Took a lot of damage though, and one big attribute is maybe his striking cardio isn't very good. Maybe his wrestling cardio is good, but the striking cardio, he gassed out in the Burns fight and he gassed out in the Marty Fake Usman fight.
Yeah. Chimaev got hyped up because he's got some crazy aggressiveness, particularly with the grappling, and he was very active against, like you were talking about, low-level competition. And he was jumped to a Gilbert Burns, which that fight was very close. It wasn't a robbery, but it was a very close fight, especially the third round. The third round was kind of up in the air. And then he'd been out for so long, couldn't make welterweight, which we're going to talk about that later, why I think welterweight was his division and the middleweight's not. Fought Holland, who again he just went crazy on. But with people starting to realize that Chimaev's got like 3 minutes to finish this fight. If not, I can really beat him. And in 5 rounds, if he starts fighting 5-round fights, which is what people want him to fight for the title next, he's going to be in some trouble.
It almost seems like Chimaev comes into the fight with, I'm going to finish this guy in the first round, and then when it goes past the first round, he kind of looks clueless. No plan B. You know, I figured, you know, I predicted Chimaev to beat Usman. I figured that Chimaev would have great straights. You know, he fights in both stances. His technique looks pretty good. I figured he'd crack Usman, but, you know, Usman was getting the better of him in the striking exchanges. Usman's striking, let's be honest, is pretty sloppy, and he was still doing much, much better than him. And Usman came in on 11 days' notice. He fought an 11 days' notice welterweight. Yeah. And he got gassed out. It almost seems like he's so reliant on having the strength advantage and being bigger than his opponents.
And this is a scenario where I wish my brother and I started our channel earlier because we would have more receipts. A lot of people were saying Chimaev's going to destroy Colby Covington. Chimaev was going to destroy Leon Edwards. We didn't believe that, especially with the Covington, because that was actually a conversation of whether that fight's going to happen. Covington would have had the wrestling to deal with him and the cardio. Let's talk about his cardio. He's got 1 round of cardio. It's ridiculous.
It's like we were talking before, you know, this was months ago, like I said, like he said, I wish we had receipts for this. We're talking about how Colby would beat Chimaev, and Chimaev was so hyped up. People acted like he was some crazy prospect and that he was going to beat Covington. And, you know, my prediction was that, you know, Chimaev fights similar to Usman. You know, good straights, can fight both stances, and Colby was cracking Usman. And what we clearly saw in this last fight, Usman is just crazy cardio compared to Chimaev. And I think Colby Covington would have been a big, big problem for Chimaev.
And then I don't know if you agree with me, I think his power is overrated.
Yeah.
He's not some power puncher. He dropped Gilbert Burns with a jab. So did Usman.
Yeah, Usman dropped Gilbert Burns with a jab as well, so that's not a great one. Yeah. And then, like I said before, Usman didn't seem to be concerned with Chimaev's striking. He just seemed to be concerned with the wrestling, and Usman, if he had time to bulk up and had a proper training camp to work on the wrestling, that wouldn't have been an issue in my opinion. And
before moving on, I want to bring this one thing, because we're known as the Leon Edwards guys. We obviously, you know, our profile picture is Leon Edwards because we met him. We're buddies with Leon Edwards. I was seeing a lot of people saying, and still saying, because in my comment sections, that Khamzat would ragdoll Leon. It's the dumbest thing ever. I think MMA math comes into play here. Usman is just a better version, particularly at 170, than Chimaev is. And Edwards beat Usman twice. I mean, it's that simple.
And Edwards is good on his back. You think Usman is good on his back? Usman has no submissions. His jiu-jitsu is not great. He's not used to being on bottom. Yeah. We saw when Edwards took him down on bottom that Usman didn't do great. He just gave him his back. And people don't understand that Edwards' striking would play a part. I know people always talk about how the wrestling plays a part in striking. It's both ways. You think that Chimaev is going to shoot like that on someone who's striking so well with him? I don't think so.
Also, someone good in the clinch. And Usman is Chimaev, who has good cardio and good power when you're talking about 170. Yeah. And Leon beat him twice. And then moving on about Khamzat Chimaev at middleweight. So at welterweight, he struggled to make weight, but when you saw him against Burns, you're like, this guy's huge.
Yeah.
He's big for the weight class. And we were there.
Burns is also a lightweight.
Yeah, Burns is a lightweight. But when we saw him fight against a short notice Usman, he's a mid-sized middleweight.
Yeah, he's a mid-sized middleweight, and like I mentioned before, it seems like he was reliant on the size.
Yeah.
He was reliant on the size, and another thing is, I cannot stop mentioning this, he gassed out to a guy that came in on 11 days notice.
It's ridiculous. I mean, and we were talking about this, I wish we also had receipts for this. Before the fight against Paulo Costa, we thought Chimaev was going to win that fight. But we were like, I don't think he's going to ragdoll him like some other people.
I thought Paulo Costa was going to win.
Yeah, and then like, consider this. Chimaev doesn't have the fear factor he used to. Paulo Costa was begging to fight Chimaev. Colby Covington, if we take his word for it, which who knows we can trust it, but Colby was saying he wanted that fight. No one's afraid of him anymore.
Yeah, I mentioned before to him, like I said before, this was just a conversation that we had because we talk about the UFC all the time.
Yeah.
What I was saying was, wow, I think Costa might win because he wants to fight Chimaev bad.
Yeah.
And, you know, it almost seems like Costa has a little bit of trouble with strikers more.
Yeah.
Vettori, that one looked bad for Costa because Vettori is not great.
He's a fridge with a good chin, right?
But Costa is really, really strong.
Yeah.
He's really, really strong, and he has great takedown defense.
Good jiu-jitsu as well.
And good jiu-jitsu. I think he would have been a problem for Chimaev. I think, and he's so big for the weight class as well, and Chimaev is so used to fighting people that are smaller than him. I think Costa would have had a lot of success, and you know, I actually saw an interview with Dricus du Plessis who said that he thinks that Costa would have smashed Chimaev. Yeah. And I'm starting to agree, and that's the fight I want to see next.
Absolutely. Same with me. And, you know, after watching the Chimaev-Usman fight, I thought Usman won rounds 2 and 3, obviously round 1 with Chimaev being 10-8. And during the post-fight interview, I was a little concerned. He doesn't want to win. I don't know if you guys saw what he said, which I think is concerning. He goes, I don't need the title. I don't want the title. I just want to make money. That's not someone who's going to win the championship. If you look at people like Leon Edwards, Conor McGregor, these were guys who wanted the title. That's what they wanted, more than anything.
Yeah, and you know, you can clearly see with this fight that he's kind of just training because he enjoys it, but it's definitely different when people actually want the belt. And obviously, like you said, he didn't really look like he wanted the belt.
Yeah.
And that's pretty concerning. It seems like Chimaev would be the guy who would really, really want the belt, and he said he didn't want it.
He likes the perks of being a UFC fighter. You know, getting to know Andrew Tate. He gets a lot of perks being in Dubai. He knows a dictator gives him a bunch of stuff. He likes the perks of being a fighter. He is not, in terms of mentality, championship worthy because he does it. I feel like the best fighters have the mentality of purpose. They want to be the champion.
Yeah, and you know, this kind of goes into this next topic. What do we want to see with Chimaev next? I was not impressed with Chimaev at all.
I wasn't at all either.
And so him fighting for the title next, I know apparently he had a broken hand. I don't think that's a great excuse in my opinion. He gassed out bad. But in my opinion, he's nowhere near a title shot.
And luckily, it looks like the UFC's also on that same path too, ranking Chimaev at number 9 at middleweight. So you're not going to give the number 9 guy a shot at the title. So he has to fight someone at middleweight. And I think we both agree that the guy who should be next is the guy who wants to fight him, which is Paulo Costa.
Yeah, Paulo Costa should be next. The other one I would say is Israel Adesanya, and you know, it's not because I dislike Adesanya and want to see Chimaev smoke him, but it's because you know, Adesanya versus Chimaev would be a pretty big fight.
Yeah.
And if they're claiming that Chimaev should have had a title shot, then Adesanya would be the next best thing. But if we're going to be honest, with that performance, he needs to fight Paulo Costa next, 9 versus 6. It makes sense. They both want it. Dana White was asking for the Chimaev versus Costa fight in particular, and it's an exciting fight still, in my opinion.
If Costa and Chimaev can be ready for UFC 300, that's a great fight for that card. In terms of Chimaev and his hype, I think we should bring down his hype. I'm talking about the MMA community, not me and him, because you know we weren't like that. But you guys were ranking him so high, like he's the next prospect. He could be a triple champ. Remember when that was a thing?
Yeah.
Just dumb looking at it now. And at this point, he was a good welterweight because of his size. Now he's a mid-sized middleweight. He's going to be smaller than Costa when they fight. He doesn't have the power. I've never seen him land a hook in my life.
Yeah, just pure straight.
Yeah, no kicks. Maybe a teep every once in a while.
Yeah,
but
no
even
kicks.
Usman's teeps were, I feel like he used them more often. He's a mid-sized middleweight with no cardio and no power. Connect those dots. I just find it hard to believe. And also he said he doesn't really care about being a champion. I struggle to believe he's going to be a champion at middleweight.
Yeah, I look at his potential matchups, not just Costa. I think Costa would beat him now. I don't know what I'm going to say if this fight ends up being made if I change my mind prior to the fight. I think that Costa would be a tough fight for him. I think that Jared Cannonier would be a tough fight for him.
Whitaker.
I think Robert Whitaker would be a tough fight for him. I would even say Adesanya would be a tough fight for him. And I think Dricus du Plessis would be a very tough match.
And you can even say Strickland. We're naming like 5 people in the middleweight division who are probably.
If he can be one of them, then maybe you can make this claim that he deserves a title shot. But after that performance, I feel like it makes a joke of the middleweight title to give him a title shot after beating a welterweight off the couch in 11 days' notice. It makes no sense.
Are we saying Chimaev is a bad fighter? Not close. Because he beat Usman ultimately. Obviously a short notice Usman, but it's still Kamaru Usman. But at this moment, I think the hype should be brought down a good bit, especially after that fight, especially hearing what he said, especially his move to middleweight. Let me know what you guys think.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered with Chimaev. Yeah. Because he had a full training camp and he did not look impressive. Maybe the broken hand did really, really affect him. Yeah. Maybe that affected him, but in our opinion, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and that question will be answered when he fights Paulo Costa next. Yeah. That's what we think should happen next.
And this video was all a result of people saying that he was going to ragdoll Leon Edwards. I could not stand for that when we made this video. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Let us know what you think, and let's bring the Chimaev hype down a notch.